I wish everyone a happy listening experience. The day Xiao Yu becomes the new top scholar, I will proactively propose to fake my death and escape. The official ladder is prosperous. The crown prince is in a daze. Xiao Yu, you really don't let anyone else surpass you. I hinted I have been by your side for so many years, not only merit but also hardship. Now I only ask for the cold bone sword in the study. What do you think? Chu Viet looked at me elegantly, smiled and said, I will give her 500 taels of silver as travel expenses for you. If that is the case, there is nothing better. I was extremely happy, held his hand and said emotionally, Xiao Yu, you have been so good to me. All these years of raising you have truly not been in vain. But Xiao Yu's expression immediately changed. He coldly smiled. Oh, and that year when you took advantage of me when I was drunk, you took away my innocence. How should I settle this debt? When I was 14 years old, when my saber technique had already achieved some success, my master threw me a jade pendant. Go to Jiangnan to find the Xiao family. I have arranged a marriage for you in the past. Hurry up and get married. She only left a sentence and then leisurely left. I worked hard to become a monk. In my heart I only want to travel the Jianghu. I have no interest in getting married. Who would have thought thinking would come to me? On my journey I used my chivalrous hand to save someone, but unexpectedly I helped a member of the Xiao family. Even more unfortunate, I was poisoned, and to cure it, I needed an extremely rare medicinal ingredient. A wanderer like me, my pockets are cleaner than my face. How can I have money to buy medicine? The person who saved the Xiao family's life is also the Xiao family's benefactor. Follow me back to Jiangnan, and I will let you enjoy wealth and honor. At that time, Chu Viet was only 13 years old, and at first glance, he was truly a young master raised in the royal road. He had the disease of a young master, and ran away from home with a follower. As a result, he was treated like a fat goat and slaughtered. If I hadn't come to his rescue, he would have been sold into a brothel for entertainment. What are you wearing? Even beggars in Jiangnan are not as ragged as you. How could the Xiao family eat steamed buns? I tell you, even if I die, I will not eat them. His entourage is dead. I want money to buy medicine, so I have no choice but to escort him back to the Xiao family. On the way, he kept complaining that this tea shop was dirty, that steamed bun was bland. I secretly hid the jade pendant and thought to myself, if I have to marry this spoiled brat, I'd rather die. Xiao Yu's appearance was already outstanding. His personality was arrogant. His eyes looked like bright moons, easily making others fall in love. Unfortunately, God did not give everyone everything. As soon as he opened his mouth, people hated him. It was not easy to bring him back to the Xiao family. The adults and children of the Xiao family saw this and cried like rain. I walked through the crowd and stood before Elder Xiao, respectfully saying, in order to save the young master, I was poisoned. I urgently need 500 taels of silver to buy medicine. I respectfully ask that the old master help me. Unexpectedly, old master Xiao looked at me twice, then said in surprise, aren't you the disciple of the swordsman Yuan Hongtu from the Great Desert, whose courtesy name is Yuan Xiao Dao? Because ha ha ha. Xiao Yu immediately laughed loudly, mocking me without any respect. Your name is indeed though Bai. No wonder all along the way I asked your name but you refused to answer. I secretly thought that something was wrong. Who would have thought that this old master would recognize me? I was planning to sneak away. Who would have thought that old Master Chu would slap Xiao Viet hard on the back, angrily saying, no matter how big or small, this is your future sister-in-law. The heavens really do not favor people. Before I could escape, the cold poison in my body took effect. I spat out a mouthful of blood, then passed out. In my daze I still heard Chu Viet shouting loudly, save her, quickly save this rotten woman, she saved my life. If anything happens to her, I will die with her. This bastard, you still have some conscience. Humph, luckily he is not my fiancé. The heavens have not treated me badly. Later I found out that Master Xiao recognized me not by chance, but because my master had sent a love letter in advance, along with my portrait. It seems that master still has some intentions towards me. The poison in my body is not a small matter. It will take at least 2 years to completely remove it. During that time, countless precious medicinal herbs will be needed. I had no choice but to stay at the Xiao family. Yuan Xiaodao, come, let's fly a kite with me. I lay down in the yard, sunbathing, nibbling on some food, not even bothering to move. That spoiled brat Tuviet still insisted on dragging me away. I kicked him to the ground and said with my eyes, "Don't know what's important, call me sister-in-law." Tuviet rushed forward and hit me, making me fall off the couch, angrily saying, "What kind of woman are you? What did my father see in you that he would make an engagement with a rude woman like you? When I grow up, I will definitely break off the engagement with you." Being pressed down by him, my chest felt heavy. I conveniently grabbed the hem of my shirt and pulled. The Xiao family is good everywhere, except that the silk clothes worn by the nobles are too restrictive and uncomfortable. Go away, go away. I took that ring and slapped Xiao Yu's face, continuing to lie on the chair, not wanting to move. The pain from the cold poison made my whole body weak and uncomfortable. Not knowing what was wrong with Tuviet, his face suddenly turned red. He turned around and ran away. This spoiled young master, he never touched books, played music, played chess, called or painted. All day he just thought of ways to escape and play. I heard you have no intention of becoming an official. You are just idle all day long. Don't you have any intention of making progress? I asked him. Xiao Yu coldly snorted. You, a woman from the Zhongho, what do you know? My Xiao family having a big brother is enough. I really don't understand the complicated matters of the noble families. I just hope that Elder Xiao will come out soon and gather the last medicinal ingredients so that I can leave. After 2 years in the Xiao family, I have lost track of my pain. After a while, Elder Xiao finally came out with news of the medicine I needed. He called me into the study and gave me an envelope. He Hoa said, "Tu Dao, the medicine you need is in Kai Chao. An old friend of mine is there, take this letter to him. Here is some silver, take it with you." Thank you, Elder Xiao, I am overjoyed, and conveniently take out the engagement jade pendant to return it. Tranton said, Young Master Chu does not intend to become an official. I absolutely do not want to waste his money. Please, Elder, cancel the engagement. From now on we will cut off all ties. This jade pendant is not the token of engagement between you and Chu Viet. Chu Lao sighed. It is the token between me and your master. Hearing that, I was stunned. I did not expect that Master and Lao Are too had this past. Chu Lao continued. Take a Viet with you, he won't be able to do anything for you if he stays at home. I'm not stupid. If I take Chu Viet with me, how can I live in peace? I immediately packed my things and left that night. Unexpectedly, as soon as I rode out of the city, I heard a loud shout from behind. Yuan Xiaodao, you rotten woman, don't even think about leaving Xiora behind. Father told me to follow you to Kai Chao to visit Uncle Qi. I turned around and saw Chu Viet riding his horse chasing after him. He had no way back, so he had to accompany me for 3 days and 2 nights. Chu Viet had spent all the money he had brought and finally he searched through my luggage. After finishing, his face turned pale. I turned to look and unexpectedly, there were 2 sets of identification papers and a pass. These things were stuffed at the bottom of my bag before, and I never paid attention to them. But no matter how slow my mind was, I knew right away that something had happened to Xiao. Xiaodao, we have to go back. Chu Viet trembled and said, his eyes filled with fear, I must go back. Looking at his soulless appearance, I secretly sighed. If something really happened to Chu, going back now with him would be like throwing ourselves into a trap. He was already too outstanding, and often did good deeds. His reputation had spread throughout Linen City. After living with Xiao Yu for 2 years, I knew clearly about his. But when we returned, it was all too late. The palace was engulfed in flames and screams were everywhere. He and I hid in the dark, only hearing the miserable screams coming from inside. There was absolutely nothing we could do. There were soldiers guarding the outside. There was no way to squeeze in. Chu Viet stood there motionless, his whole body stiff, his eyes bloodshot. He waited until morning. The gate Chu came from finally opened. Corpses were carried out one by one, thrown haphazardly on the street. My father, my mother, my sister, my second sister. Chu Viet tried to rush out, but I held him back. Chu Viet, calm down. If you die, who will sing for them? I hugged him tightly, closing my eyes to try to stop the tears from falling. Having followed my master across the lake for more than 10 years, I had long gotten used to separation. But Chu Viet was not like that. He was a young master who lived in luxury. How could he bear the thought of being exterminated? Xiao Yu forcefully wiped away his tears and said firmly, Let's go, we're going to Jizhou. On the way to Jizhou, we don't dare to be too showy. At night, he only slept in the market stalls in the countryside, and when he was hungry, he ate some dry food. After 2 years in Chu, I clearly knew how happy Chu Viet had been. He used to lie in the yard, play with precious pearls, and tease the beautiful maids in the house. The dish the chef cooked took hours to cook. He only tasted a few bites and then threw it away, complaining that it was not new. Before going to bed, the maid had to warm his feet. If he felt even the slightest bit of cold, he would stay up all night. Now Chu Viet was sipping tea worth only a few coins, chewing on dry cakes, no longer having the appearance of a young master of the past. He had enjoyed so much glory and wealth, but now he was experiencing a life of wandering and hardship in the mortal world. Seeing that scene, I couldn't help but be surprised and look at him with different eyes. We passed through a county that was suffering from famine. In the tea house where we stopped, outside was a scene of ragged people gathered. A waiter from the nearby Shaolu brought out a bucket of water to wash the food. 6 or 7 people rushed to buy that bucket of water. They didn't even have time to carry it home, but immediately scooped up the remaining water, frantically sucking every drop. Those who had more, those who had less started fighting each other. A frail woman cried, "Please leave me a bowl. I paid for it, my child at home is starving to death." But no one paid any attention to her. The South was starving, everyone was miserable. No one had the heart to care about others. "Tu Dao, I want to help her." Chu Viet tightly folded the coins in his hand, his voice full of difficulty. I chewed a few pieces of dry meat sandwich, shook my head. Even if someone gave me money, she wouldn't live long. Chu Viet slightly drooped his head. His eyes were dreamy. From childhood until now, I have only lived in Linen City. The farthest place I have ever been is the capital. My elder sister was the imperial concubine of the current dynasty, once a very favored lady. But now, I don't know why some people have to live such miserable lives, even worse than Xiaojia's fortune-telling coachman. He grew up in Jiangnan, a prosperous and wealthy place where even beggars have the right to choose their food. Xiaoyu was right before, even the beggars in Jiangnan dress better than me. "It's not your fault," I patted his shoulder and slowly said. "The rich but never bully the poor, that's enough." "Is that enough? Is that enough?" Chu Viet leaned his head on my shoulder, his body trembling slightly. After a while he raised his head, his eyes were bloodshot, his voice full of restraint. "Little knife, I want to be an official. For the wrong souls of the Chu family, and also for the people who have to live in poverty." His wish is truly great. Looking at his thin, determined appearance, I sighed in my heart and just nodded, "Okay." We silently followed the woman into a slum that was so dirty and smelled so bad that it was unbearable. Waiting for her to enter the house, I threw my luggage over the wall. In it were the cakes I bought from the shop earlier, with some traces of them drying out. As we left, Xiaoyu asked me, "Little knife, can they survive?" "No, they will soon die. That slum, when summer comes, there will be an epidemic. At that time, the government will blockade the entire area, let all the people die and then burn them to death to prevent the spread of the disease." But I did not tell the truth. Looking at Chu Viet, I spoke again. "They will live, they will definitely live." At that moment, Chu Viet breathed a sigh of relief. In his dead eyes, a glimmer of hope finally appeared. "When I get to Kai Chao, I will go to school. Xiao Dao, you should stay and settle down there." Xiaoyu said with hope, "Uncle Tay has watched me grow up, he will definitely help us." But none of us expected that we would almost lose our lives in Qizhou. Xiaoyu once said that Uncle Tay was the most disloyal person, and that he was the one who betrayed the Xiao family. If it weren't for Xiaoyu's wisdom and leaving some precautions, we would have been poisoned and died without a sound. Xiaoyu and I had to flee Qizhou that very night, but there were pursuers constantly on our tail. The soldiers of the Tay family are just small fry, not experts. But on the way to escape, the cold poison in my body acted up again, and I was also slashed painfully on the back. "Tu Viet, I will clear a path for you to escape in a moment." I tried to hold back my knife and said, "They just want to capture you and take you back to the capital. If you escape from this place, you will definitely be safe." The cold poison took effect, making my whole body stiff and cold. But Tu Viet hugged me tightly, gritted his teeth and said, "No, little knife, now I only have you left." He turned his head to look at the people surrounding us, his eyes full of anger. "Call Tay Trung Duk out here, I will give the Tay family a fortune, see if he dares to accept it." I don't know what Xiao Yu said to Zizhongda, but he agreed to let us go. In my delirium I heard Zizhongda laugh. Dear nephew, do you remember? When you were 3 years old, I went to Linen to visit your father. At that time you were still playful, crawling on my back, forcing me to carry you everywhere. Now carry her on your back, try crawling out of the continent. When morning comes you won't have another chance. Tu Viet carried me on his back and collapsed to the ground. He knelt down and crawled step by step towards the city gate. TSK. Who would have thought that a Chu family with 3 generations of illustrious history would end up in this situation? Tai Trung Duk whipped Tu Viet's face, sneering. Your concubine Kui was locked up in the cold palace. Your elder brother also died in the capital. Now the Tu family only has you left, a spoiled young master. There really is no one to inherit. Tu Viet did not say anything. I lay on his back, tears falling continuously. Finally, when we reached the city gate, Tai Trung Duk blocked the way, laughing. My dear son, this city gate is too small. You can only pass through my crotch. I can't listen anymore. The cold poison is taking effect, completely exhausting my body. I passed out and knew nothing more. Little knife, I'm going to the library. In the sleepy rain I felt a warm heater stuffed into my leg. Tu Viet saw that I did not answer, so he shook me awake, his voice full of excitement. You didn't remember to bring me food, did you hear? I was so angry that I pulled my legs over my head. Hearing the door close, I fell back into a deep sleep. 2 years ago, Tu Viet changed completely, abandoned his old identity, took a fake name, lived in seclusion in Bien Chao and went to school. His personality gradually became calmer, no longer the spoiled young master he had been before. But the way he tortured me became even more bizarre. After asking me to carry the scented bag, she also asked me to bring lunch boxes to the library. She said that in the library there was a female classmate who was from the poorest family and had the most miserable life and needed help. I'm not really a girl, why should I do these things? Woke up early and practiced a set of sword techniques. Seeing that it was getting late, I quickly ran to buy food and brought a lunchbox to the library. As soon as I arrived, I heard the bustling sound of gongs and entered, and saw that the place was packed with people. Tu Viet was surrounded by people, his face was smiling but his attitude was cold, and he thanked everyone. Miss Nguyen, our young lady invites you to come over. A royal family member spoke. The person in the most famous wine house in the area. I secretly looked at the bottle of wine on the table, couldn't help but sniff. Luhoa Tai, this is a precious wine that is hard to find. Ever since I was injured, Tu Viet forbade me from drinking alcohol. Without wine, I would no longer be a person in the Zhang Ho. Miss Nguyen must also know, young Master Chu just passed the imperial examination. Tan Ruoyu gently poured wine for me, his voice gentle. If young Master Xiao passes the imperial examination and becomes a third-rank scholar, he will be a rare talent in the imperial court. If he has the support of his family behind him, young Master Xiao will soon become prime minister. I drained the cup, the fragrance spreading throughout my mouth. The wine is so delicious. Unfortunately, Tu Viet has a miserable life. Both his parents are dead. If someone like Miss Tan is willing to be his wife, that would be great. With the support of the young lady's family, he will definitely reach the top soon. Tan Ruanga's eyes lit up, she bowed and said, I won't hide it from you, I have admired young Master Chu for a long time. If I marry into the Xiao family, I will become sworn sisters and serve the young master with all my heart and soul. Little sister, that would be the best. I immediately burst into tears. I also only hope that my husband will soon achieve great success. The bottle of wine was quickly drained. I took the silver bag of wine that he gave me, and left with a heart full of satisfaction. As soon as I left the door, I was pulled into the next room by Tu Viet. He tightened his grip on my waist and said angrily, Yuan Xiaodao, you still dare to drink alcohol. Last time the cold poison attacked and I fainted, have you forgotten? Just drink a little. I took out the silver bag from my body and said with a smile, Miss Qin is not like Miss Wang or Miss Li. Xiao Yu, if you cannot stay in the capital, these 3 can help you a little. I've thought it over carefully. Of the 3 of you, Miss Tan is the most patient and definitely has true feelings for you. Miss Wang is a bit hot-tempered, but has a simple personality. As for Miss Li, her family doesn't do much charity work, so she can't help you much. So I advise you to observe more. Wait until you pass the imperial examinations, and maybe even be chosen by the princess to be her son-in-law. By then, destroying the entire Zhong family will be a matter of time. Please think carefully for me. Tu Viet glanced at me, pinched my cheeks, and criticized me. Abandoning the crown prince to pursue a future. If I really did such a thing, I would definitely be scolded to death by the officials who submitted memorials. Following Tu Viet for many years, every night he told me stories from the afternoon, so I considered myself to know a little. After thinking for a while, I replied, "It's okay, wait until you pass the imperial examination. I will fake my death immediately, so as not to affect your reputation." Promoted to a high position and became rich, then lost his wife. See Tu Viet. I am truly a man of love and loyalty. Tu Viet showed that he did not want to argue with me, and pulled me home. On the way, he suddenly asked what was in the lunchbox you bought at Vai Man Laoe. No, today I bought it at the shop in front of the school gate. The eldest son of the family also ate it. That food was really delicious. I was in a hurry to show off my achievements, waiting for a reward. Unexpectedly, Tu Viet was the one holding the money. The money I gave him to keep, he kept even more money. The Tu family has been rich for 3 generations, it is true. He really taught me the Trung Min Din. Tu Viet was once taught by famous scholars. If not for the Tu family's misfortune, he could have gone further. Tu Viet flicked his head twice and sighed. Even if he wanted to avoid work, he should have chosen a smaller restaurant. The entire library has gone to the Luan Palace, and yet you bought things there. I suddenly remembered, and everyone couldn't help but look at me. Xiao Yu looked at me again. Nguyen Tu Dao, with a brain like this, how can you still live peacefully in the martial arts world for so many years? I looked at Tu Viet, preparing to attack. Unexpectedly, he was on guard, turned around and ran away. On the way, he met a classmate who shouted loudly from behind. "What's going on? Madam, this brother Xiao has a different identity. You can't just randomly chase him around and beat him up on the street like that. What kind of decency is that?" Xiao Yu took me to the capital 3 months in advance to prepare for the spring exams. After 2 years in Bianchao, he had already established a reputation. In the capital, many people knew of Tu Viet's peerless eloquence and unbridled arrogance. As soon as he entered the capital, he received many invitations to attend literary gatherings. This was my first time entering the capital, and I couldn't help but feel as happy as if I were celebrating a festival. The governor was quite well off, so he gave me some silver to spend. I was overwhelmed by the prosperity of the capital. When Tu Viet was not paying attention, I disguised myself as a man and went to listen to a performance at Tan Lao. I went a few times and met Hai Duong, a girl who played the pipa. While she was sitting next to me telling jokes, suddenly there was a strange noise downstairs. I poked my head out to look down and saw someone. Downstairs was a man with a cold, detached look, like a celestial being without a speck of worldly dust. He was dressed extremely lightly, revealing faint whip marks on his body. There were quite a few people around who were peeping at him, but no one dared to bother him. "Stop looking." Hai Duong threw the handkerchief in my face, and said with a pout. He was once the top young master of the capital 2 years ago, but he was sent to pay for his crimes. Fell from the high platform, now being measured by someone with a yuan, becoming a plaything of some noble. Look at it, it looks like a snake. It must have been abused again, thrown here to let me humiliate its so-called arrogance. I touched the jade pendant in my pocket. My heart couldn't help but be shocked. That person is Xiao Yu, Xiao Yu's elder brother. My elder brother is arrogant and skilled in both music, chess, calligraphy and painting. He is truly a rare talent. Yuan Xiaodao, I warn you, don't ever think about my elder brother. He will definitely become a great minister famous in history. Humph, you, a person with dirty hands and feet, are not worthy to even look at my brother. Tu Viet's words from that day echoed in my head. The melodious sound of the zither rang out, and Xiao Yu sat down on the ground hugging a zither. He ignored all the gazes around him, only focused on playing the zither, his expression as if he didn't care about anyone. While I was concentrating on listening to the zither, a large man with a beard pointed at me and dragged me into a room. Immediately after, Xiao Yu also entered. "Young Master Xiao, please," the man's gloomy voice rang out. "This old slave wants to see being trampled like this. How much arrogance will I have left in the days?" Xiao Yu and I were forced to drink 2 cups of wine. The door was closed and slammed shut. The wine was drugged. I saw Xiao Yu's face turn red. He clenched his teeth to resist the alcohol. Young Master Xiao, let's begin. I pulled him down on the bed, she said deliberately. I'm really unlucky today. Let's see what kind of rich young master I am. Tudu looked disgusted and wanted to push me away. I pulled down the bed curtain, leaned over and whispered to him. I am your brother's fiancé Yuan Xiaodao. Look, this is Elder Zhao's jade pendant. I held his hand, transmitting cold air to his burning body, helping him cool down. Xiao Yu's eyes gradually returned to normal. He looked at me, his eyes shining. You know me, I took off my makeup, revealing my true face. Xiao Yu looked at me intently for a moment, then slowly said, I don't know you. I breathed in, briefly told Xiao Yu's story and advised him. Be patient. Xiao Yu will definitely clear the name of old Xiao and give you back your freedom. Xiao Yu's sweat dripped down his forehead. He closed his eyes and did not reply. Miss Yuan, I apologize if I offended you. Xiao Yu spoke softly, his tone cold and restrained. I was stunned, my face turned red and I stammered. What offense? A moment later, Tudu was taken away. I pretended to faint on the bed, listening to the man-in-law mumbling. Well, lucky for you, he didn't touch you. When those guys left, I quickly disguised myself and sneaked out of the brothel. When I got home, I saw Tu Viet sitting in the yard. I ran over and told him what had just happened. What's that on your collar? Come here, let me take a look. You still have the mood to worry about my collar? I said hurriedly. We have to think of a way to save your big brother. Or I can ask my master to secretly take him out. Tu Viet grabbed my collar, pulled it down to reveal the teeth marks on my collarbone, and laughed coldly. Yuan Xiaodao, you are very good, really good, planning to abandon me to become a pair of mandarin ducks with my big brother. Then run away together? I was stunned. How did the story come to this? With the situation at that time, if Xiao Yu really bit me, I would have punched him out. But the nameless fire in Xiao Yu's heart flared up again. Completely unreasonable. I am not someone to be trifled with, he said with his eyes. Xiao Yu, your big brother and I already have an engagement. Even if we get married in the future, what's wrong with that? What are you angry about? Xiao Yu was so angry that his chest was heaving and his face was pale. Seeing him so angry, I deliberately teased him. What? Are you afraid that if I marry your big brother, I will leave you alone? Don't worry, before you got married, we were still living together. Tu Viet's eyes were red. His teeth gritted as he cursed. What the hell do you understand? Nguyen Tu Dao. You don't understand anything. You haven't studied anything yet. Why are you speaking so vulgarly? He left right after that. And I was so hungry that I had to go into the kitchen to find something to eat. After eating, I remembered that Xiao Yu had an exam coming up, so I shouldn't argue with him at this time. Here, walnuts, eat them. I stood outside and knocked on the door. Inside the house there was a loud banging sound. I wonder what he was breaking. This was a rented room. If you break something, you have to pay triple the compensation. I kicked the door open. Tu Viet sat on the soft chair, his eyes red, revealing his legs full of scars. Back then, he had carried me out of the city gate. His knees were worn down, exposing the bones. If he hadn't received timely treatment, he would have become a cripple. It hurts again. I took out the medicinal oil, intending to help him massage. Tu Viet turned around to leave, but I held him back. If he runs again, I will break his legs. Just break it. What else is there that hasn't been broken? Tu Viet gritted his teeth and said, I've been queuing for half a day to buy walnuts from that Bao Kak for you. You're so good, secretly going to meet my big brother alone. Listen, every word is so indecent. All day long he keeps his guard up with his classmates, but when he goes out he puts up a wall. What kind of indecent attitude is that? I helped him apply the medicinal oil, glanced at the box of walnuts beside him and nodded. Feeding me, Tu Viet pursed his lips, opened the box and fed me. After eating 2 bites, I told him about meeting Chudu today inside. His elder brother had suffered a lot. Being forced to take medicine was a common thing. He had even gotten used to enduring it. Tu Viet was silent for a long time, then relaxed. People don't understand him. He has never done anything he doesn't want to do. If he doesn't want to touch someone today, then no one can force him. He said the last sentence softly. I couldn't hear clearly. I asked softly, what are you going to do now? Tu Viet snorted. No matter what, you can't let your master secretly take my brother away. I pinched him and told him to talk seriously. I've been in contact with my brother since we were in Bien Chao. Tu Viet finally became serious. Don't worry, my brother is strong enough to protect himself. He pondered for a long time before continuing. Some things are ready. All that is needed is a gust of east wind. By then, the ghosts of the Shao family will be at peace. As for matters related to the imperial court, I do not understand. That year, following my master Lang Bok Jong Ho, I read few books. When I have avenged myself, I will leave. The capital is good, but it is not my place. One day, I will be like my master, becoming a famous swordsman in Jianghu. Tu Viet saw that I was silent, so he looked at me and said, "Little knife, you must promise me. You cannot insult my brother." I was about to tell him he was sick, but the image of Xiao Yu flashed through my mind. He was crouching under the light, gritting his teeth to endure the torture of the medicine, yet he wouldn't let anyone touch him. I had never seen such a person, so calm and dignified. "I don't say any more, you don't say anything." Tu Viet took a deep breath and left the room. The exam was coming. Tu Viet rarely left the house. All day he just focused on studying. But every time he saw me, he couldn't stand it. Either he would glance at me or intentionally bump into me. After 2 more days, I really couldn't stand this strange attitude. I rushed into the study, grabbed his collar and said angrily, "Xiao Yu, if you are capable, then continue your Cold War with me. If you are not capable, then make peace properly." What exactly is going on these past few days? Breakfast, lunch and dinner are all prepared, and fruit and snacks are also bought. I even meticulously bought him 2 copies of the script, but he didn't even say a word to me. Tu Viet sat on the chair, suddenly trying to make peace. His voice was a bit upset. This kind of boss is no longer dignified. I pursed my lips, patted his back, and took out the bottle of medicinal oil. "My master specially sent it to me. It's very good for your knees." "I'm serious, you have an exam in 3 days. It will take 9 days to finish. I'm worried your leg will hurt again." Tu Viet leaned back in his chair, looked at me and finally smiled slightly. He took advantage of the situation and raised his eyebrows to tease me. "It would take at least 2 months for your master and Tuk Trung to send the items here. It seems you wrote a letter a long time ago. Nguyen Tu Dao, you still remember me." What nonsense. I grew up with my master, but there weren't many close people around me. Following Xiao Yu for 4 years, although he was always stubborn, he was extremely good to me. When Zhao's family was exterminated, he tried his best to resist and not fall. These past few days I've been inquiring everywhere and know that with Xiao Yu's talent, he will definitely come out on top. I wrote a letter to my master. If Xiao Yu passed the imperial examination, I would return to Shuzhong to find her. The day of the examination arrived. The front gate of the imperial examination hall was packed with people. Long lines of candidates entered one after another. Xiao Yu, carrying his luggage before entering the examination, immediately hugged me. What kind of decency is this? What kind of decency is this? A classmate standing beside him blushed and spread his legs wide. "Go," I patted Xiao Yu on the shoulder and smiled at him. "I'll wait for you to come back." Tu Viet held my hand tightly, then turned and walked towards the officialdom. In front of everyone's eyes, he still maintained his composure. He had prepared for all of this for a long time. Just by appearing, he was enough to attract attention. Tu Viet was the center of attention from the start. When he disappeared, I squeezed my wallet and planned to go find some crab apples to drink to relieve my boredom. Who would have thought that before I could even walk 2 streets, there was still a small tail following me from behind. I rolled my eyes and thought, in the capital I have not made enemies with anyone. She turned into a few dark alleys, and when she turned she climbed up the wall. When the little tail ran to the corner, she saw no one and burst into tears. I really lost him. If I can't find him, who can save him? I jumped down behind him and asked in a low voice, "Who are you, young master?" The little tail cried even louder, asking as she cried, "Are you the original young master? My young master is Xiao Yu. I beg you, please save him. He was framed by Princess Yongping and can't live anymore." Hai Tang once told me a lot about Xiao Yu. After the tragedy of the Xiao family's extermination, Xiao Yu should have been executed. But thanks to the high-ranking officials and powerful officials all pleading for help, Tu Du was able to save his life. There was only one reason: people are hard to come by. Chu-do became famous at a young age. At 14 he passed the third exam. But because he was still young, he was not appointed to an official position. After that, Chu-do traveled everywhere to study. His talent was outstanding, making everyone admire him. Unfortunately, God was jealous of talented people. The man who should have risen like an axe in the wind ended up in prison. Princess Vinbin targeted Chu-do and used all means to torture him, but still, despite his criminal status, thanks to the Crown Prince's protection, he was temporarily saved. Princess Vinbin is the Crown Prince's younger sister, with a stubborn personality. Even though she is married, she still constantly humiliates Chu-do. The Crown Prince still turns a blind eye to her outrageous actions, but he did not expect that one time Princess Vinbin broke Chu-do's arm in a fit of anger. Knowing that things had gone too far, the Crown Prince quickly sent Chu-do to a manor on the outskirts of the capital to avoid trouble. However, Princess Vinbin still ordered people in the manor to secretly torture him. The young master was usually patient with the princess, but just because of a few small things, the princess became angry. The little maid recounted with red eyes. The day the young master was taken away, she told me that if anything happened, I should seek out the young master for help. I clenched my fists, trying to stay calm. After investigating the situation of the manor in the suburbs, I decided to pretend to be a female servant to infiltrate. I didn't expect to be sent to serve the eunuch. Truly serving a living Buddha, if he dies in our hands, none of us will be at peace. Let the new girl do it. In such a state of ignorance she should be a sacrifice to the gods. Hearing their gossip, I just realized that Chu-do was so weak that he couldn't eat or drink anything. When I entered the small ruined garden, I saw him sitting under a tree, staring intently at the wild flowers on the ground. He was very thin, his face was pale, and he coughed continuously, but he still maintained a clean and tidy appearance. Chu-do turned his head to see me, looked closely into my eyes and then smiled faintly. Laughing a little, he started coughing again. Even though I was disguised, he still recognized me. Looking at his arm hanging loosely by his side, I gently massaged it and spoke in a low voice. Young master, if you don't treat it, your hand will be crippled. Then I'll have to rely on you, young lady. He politely bowed his head. I adjusted his arm bones, his sweat poured down like rain, but it didn't make any difference. The medicine was given from the outside, and he immediately became weak as soon as he took it. He forced a smile, apologetic. It was rude to let the young lady witness this scene. I didn't say anything, just took the bowl of medicine and tried drinking it. Cough, cough. I also became young, my face was as yellow as turmeric. This medicine was clearly intentionally used to harm him. Chu-do was already weak, how could he take this? I know a little about pharmacology. If Miss Nguyen doesn't mind, please allow me to prepare the medicine myself from outside. Without hesitation, I went out that night to buy the medicine, and secretly cooked it for him for 5 days. His health gradually improved. Chu Viet must have been out of the exam for 5 days. I took him back to the study and casually mentioned that it had rained yesterday, wondering if his leg hurt. Chu-do turned to look at me and softly said, Chu Viet has been arrogant since he was young, but you have left him like a buffalo. In your heart, I'm afraid he is very important. I thought for a moment and then replied. At that time, anyone by his side was like a life-saving straw. Chu Viet had fallen so painfully, witnessed his whole family being killed by Tien, and had nightmares every night. Luckily, I was there at that time, so he found a reason to continue living. When I was cleaning Xiao Yu's study, I accidentally dropped a small wooden box. Inside the box was a small knife with a worn blade, and a few old Chinese manuscripts, all very familiar. I bent down to pick them up, and was surprised to see my master's ugly handwriting on a letter in the box. Xiao Yu also bent down to help me, speaking frankly. Ever since I was 5 years old, every year I received a few items from your master along with letters and paintings. I curiously asked my master why he wrote to you. After cleaning up, Xiao Yu sat down and told me the stories behind those items. He looked at my shy expression and smiled. When I was young, my father told me that I would marry a girl named Nguyen Chu Dao. He often told me not to let other girls charm me and to keep myself pure. Father was worried that we had never met, afraid that you wouldn't marry, so he forced your master to send these things to tell you about you. I feel like I'm falling apart from each letter now. I didn't pull up the little monk's pants. Why would my master write like that, and even tell you that story? I was 6 years old. Out of curiosity, I once played with a young monk in a temple. While wrestling, his pants accidentally fell down. Tudu said softly. At that time, I was also worried that you would have to take responsibility for that little monk. Where did this sentence come from? I was annoyed and did not reply, continuing to flip through other items. I read this manuscript every day before going to bed. I said angrily my master said he couldn't find it, and even threatened me that the storybook grew legs and ran away, so it turns out she sent it all to you. Tudu nodded. I've bought the entire set of 3 heroes and 5 justices. I wonder if you're missing any. Let me give them to you. I was surprised. You really bought it? I thought my master was lying to me again. My master is really an expert at lying. I was still young then. How could I believe that I was promised to marry a young master like this? Tudu took out a small knife. I pointed at it and said, "This knife is very precious. I spent half a tael of silver to buy it, lost it and was so angry that I ate candied fruit for 3 days straight, even got a toothache." Looking through the old things, I sighed. It's not fair. My master gave you all the treasures. Why didn't your father send me the things to see? Xiao Yu smiled, took out a large wooden box and slowly said, "Ever since I was 10 years old, every time I received something from you, I would put my favorite thing in here, and also write you a letter and send you a picture. But you and your master are always here and there. I have no way to send them. I carry these things with me, just hoping to meet you one day to give them to you in person." When the maid entered, she saw the pile of things on the table and said in panic, "Young master, why did you take these things out again? If Princess Yongping finds out, you will be tortured again. That fiancé has lost contact. Why do you need to keep these things even if it almost cost you your life?" I sat still, my mind in turmoil. It turned out that the reason why Princess Yongping was angry was because of the items related to me. When the door closed, the room became quiet. Xiao Yu looked at my embarrassed expression and smiled slightly. "Did I scare you?" "No, nothing." I blushed and stammered. I never expected that the engagement that I once thought was a joke from my master would become something that Xiao Yu cherished so much. Xiao Yu tapped lightly on the table and spoke slowly. "Miss Yuan, as you have seen, I am sincere towards you. Even though I was persecuted by Princess Yongping for many years, I still kept myself pure. If the young lady also has feelings for me, after I avenge my family, would you be willing to marry me and live together for the rest of your life?" Xiao Yu's confession came so suddenly, I was completely unprepared. I could only say a few words to cover it up. He didn't force me to answer right away, which made me breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, the day Tu Viet finished his exam came. He had lost a lot of weight, looking like a pickled cucumber after leaving the exam hall. After taking a bath and drinking some hot soup, he slept for 2 days before recovering. On the 3rd day, the golden list was posted, and his friend from Ton the Thong had arrived early. Tu Viet ate breakfast slowly, then leisurely went to look at the list. Looking at that expression, I knew right away that he was confident that he would pass. The area where the sign was posted was packed with people. People were standing there. I went to see. I was afraid of crowding too much, so I rushed into the crowd myself. My legs were already weak, but I still weaved through the crowd like a wave. Not long after, the golden plaque was fried, and golden screams were heard everywhere. The entire plate was engraved with armor, Bien Chao, Tu Viet. Before they could see the names clearly, the shouts had already spread throughout the entire area. Bien Chao and Tu Viet were indeed the top students. The sound was like surging waves rolling everywhere. I looked at the board again. The name of that honorable friend Vong Tuen was also on it. I turned around but was blocked by Vong Tuen. Wang Quan covered his face and took a few deep breaths. Then he raised his head, his eyes red, and said softly, "Finally, my mother can rest in peace." Wang Quan's mother sacrificed a lot to raise him and educate him, and finally she was rewarded. Tu Viet said, "You should go back first." Vong Tuen added, hesitated a bit, then said softly, "Nguyen Ko Nuong, the young lady of Lam Te Tuong's mansion, invited Tu Viet. To tell you the truth, after going to the capital, Tu Viet had an affair with old lady Lam." When saying these words, Vong Tuen blushed, looking very embarrassed. I know Vong Tuen is not a talkative person, He must have said this because he was grateful that I helped his family when he was in Bien Chao. I know I clasped my hands and smiled. I also wish you success in the imperial examination. Vong Tuan smiled back, her face even redder. Not long after returning home, Tu Viet returned. People in town, old friends and classmates all came to congratulate him. Luckily, Tu Viet had prepared red envelopes and candy. When everyone left, I pulled him back and asked in a low voice, "Does old Miss Lam know your true identity?" Lam Tin Di, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's palace, is originally Tu Viet's fiancée. I have known about this for a long time. In the past, when Tu was still in his prime, Tu Viet once told me, "Humph, my fiancée Lam Tin Di, is a young lady from a famous and prestigious family, famous throughout the capital. Talented and beautiful, unlike you, a wild monkey, who only knows a few words and beats me all day long." When he said these words, he was still very arrogant. I thought that marriage was over, but I didn't expect that the two of you were still in contact. Don't misunderstand. Xiao Yu explained that I only used Miss Lin to exchange information with Lin Jingyi. Looking at his calm expression, I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Lam Tin Di did not break off the engagement because of Tu's incident, and even supported him. Such a girl was indeed very good. But I didn't expect that I would meet that young lady so soon. When Tu Viet took the imperial examination, I was invited to Tin Di's mansion by Lam Tin Di herself. She had a graceful appearance, and her whole person exuded an indescribable aura. Seeing me, she smiled and said, "Miss Nguyen is indeed as I thought, with a personable demeanor that makes others feel comfortable." Being praised like that by her, I also feel a bit embarrassed. Lam Tin Di took me around the flower garden, telling me about Tu Viet when he was young. Before the imperial concubine she read about in the capital, Tu Viet was young, but he was not often here. I went to the palace to serve the Queen Mother, and only met him a few times. She smiled. He was truly a little tyrant back then. I thought that if I really married him, I wouldn't know how I would live. Hearing her say that, even though I was slow, I understood a few things. Tu Viet and I pretending to be husband and wife was just a temporary plan. I spoke up to explain. Lam Tin Di looked at me, her eyes filled with sadness. After a while she said, "Miss Nguyen, do you know the day Tu Viet came to find me, he said he wanted to get married." I was surprised. He said, even if Xiao Ra was cleared of all charges and his reputation was restored, he still wanted to get married. You know, he said he already had someone else in his heart. Lin Jingdi gently wiped her tears, her voice gentle. Tu Viet and I have been engaged since we were 8 years old. Our friends often jokingly call me Mrs. Tu. The day Tu got into trouble, I was so heartbroken that I fainted and wanted to go in and ask the Empress Dowager to forgive him. My father locked me in the house, and only after 2 years did he dare to say that he was still alive. Saying this, she cried even harder. I gently gave her a handkerchief. Lam Tin Di thanked him. After calming down, she continued, "I do not agree to break off the engagement. He has a big deal. He will definitely become a high-ranking official in the future. His wife must be someone who can manage the harem and help him plan everything. If he wants to marry you, my father will never agree. The nobles in the capital will not help him either." After listening, I thought for a moment and then replied, "Miss Lam, you will marry me, but I used to like Tu Viet. When I found out he had an engagement, I hid my feelings." Tu Viet looked calm, but he had many wounds in his heart. "If you two get married in the future, I hope you will be tolerant of him. He is afraid of the dark and also afraid of pain." Lin Jingyi looked at me, tears streaming down her face, and bowed deeply. After the imperial examination, Tu Viet was named the top scholar. But right at the ceremony, his true identity was revealed. He accused the prime minister and his family of being involved in a rebellion, and all the great crimes were blamed on the Chu family. This caused the Xiao family to be exterminated, and concubine Xiao to be imprisoned in the cold palace. The shocking incident involving the empress, the crown prince, and the entire royal family caused chaos in the imperial court. The emperor was furious and immediately ordered a 3-person jury to investigate the truth of the matter. Tu Viet was confined in the palace. Unexpectedly, news spread from within the palace that the crown prince was about to be deposed. The crown prince could not keep calm, and on the 3rd day, he led his troops straight into the royal palace. When I heard this news, I immediately led troops to the palace with Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu wore silver armor and said in a low voice, "I was worried that something would happen to Xiao Yu, so I brought someone along." I gritted my teeth and said he will definitely be fine. Xiao Yu has been patiently waiting for the crown prince for many years, just waiting for an opportunity to strike a fatal blow. Prime Minister Lin led 5,000 soldiers, fiercely fighting the rebels, intending to save the king. I rushed faster than everyone else, following Xiao Yu's instructions, heading straight to the royal palace. When we got close to Huayang Palace, we saw Xiao Yu covered in blood, leaning against a large pillar. "Xiao Yu," I rushed forward, slashing down the rebel soldiers approaching him in pain. Xiao Yu raised his head to look at me, then sat down on the ground exhausted. I checked it over and saw that his arm was only slightly injured, so I took a breath. Nguyen Tu was in pain. Tu Viet leaned on my shoulder and sighed. "Do you know that if the crown prince wins, we will all die? Before I die, I will take off the crown prince's armor and rub the pain away." Lin Jingyi was right. Xiao Yu needed a wife of noble birth and knowledgeable in etiquette. But on the run, he needed a sword to protect his life. The rebels were panicking, and I and the sword could kill thousands of people to get the crown prince's head. My master was once a merchant named Nguyen Hong Tu, who single-handedly destroyed a bandit's den. As for me, at the age of 50, I personally dealt with a tyrant. People in the martial arts world, although not well versed in books, always have a sense of justice in their hearts. In the story, the hero uses his sword to save people. But in reality, pain is the most powerful weapon. The crown prince is holding out at Minduk Palace, using the emperor as a hostage. I stood from afar watching the guards at the gate, thinking to myself, "Master, today I will definitely make you proud." I leaned against the cold wall, waved my hand over my aching body, and regulated my breathing. Since I was 5 years old, I have been practicing pain, and it has been 13 years now. "Master, why is it called pain?" "It is to cut off the root of all injustice." "Master, what is the name of this pain method?" 3,000 miles. "Oh, what a strange name." I lightly slapped the painful body. A sharp sound spread out. Master once said that if I practiced diligently, one day I would become one of the top 3 pain dealers in the martial arts world. Today I want to see where my limit is. 3,000 miles of freedom. One painful sword can block hundreds of soldiers. I tighten my pain, step into the light. "Master, your disciple will definitely not lose face in the martial arts world." When I entered the Mingda Palace, countless frightened gazes were focused on me. Blood stained my vision, and the pain in my hand was still hot. I put the pain on the crown prince's neck, turned towards the emperor, and spoke loudly. I, the nameless pain guest, accepted the request of the young master Chu Viet and came here to save him. I pushed the crown prince out of the palace and transmitted the sound. "Listen, surrender quickly, the rebellious crown prince." At that time, after a fierce battle with thousands of rebels, Chu Du and Chu Viet arrived in time to save me, but I was exhausted and fainted. When I woke up, it was already 10 days later. My whole body ached as if crushed by a huge rock, and it was difficult to move. "This stupid girl." The master threw a cup at my head and said angrily, "You really tried, sacrificing your life to take credit for someone else." Seeing my master, I burst into tears and hugged her tightly, refusing to let go. My master frowned and sighed in relief. Luckily, I had just arrived in the capital, otherwise even a god would have had a hard time saving her. I understand clearly how dangerous that day was. Due to overusing my energy, if I wasn't careful, the meridians in my body would have been severed and chet. Master said that the queen and prime minister were thrown into prison, and the crown prince was deposed. The Xiao family's injustice was cleared, and imperial concubine Xiao was also released from the cold palace. Master told me to go out of the medicine box, and Xiao Yu walked in. As soon as he entered, he hugged me tightly. Looking at his expression, I knew something was on his mind. "What happened?" I asked. "Hasn't the Xiao family been cleared of wrongdoing?" Xiao Viet tried to suppress his emotions, resting his head on my shoulder, his voice hoarse. "Little knife, now I know from the beginning to the end the Xiao family was just a pawn in the emperor's hands. He wanted to overthrow the empress and the prime minister, using the Xiao family as a sacrifice, pushing my entire family to the guillotine. The emperor had planned this for many years, waiting for the day when the Xiao family would force the crown prince to rebel. I wasted my time searching for the truth. My aunt once said that rain, dew, and thunder are all the grace of the king. But her heart has long since died. That year, her fame spread throughout the capital, her smile persuading the nation and the city. Now her eyes were completely calm. Caca was originally a righteous person, but he had to sacrifice himself, hide in the crown prince's palace, and endure humiliation from Princess Vin Bin. Now the entire court knew about these things. How can he return to the court? Tu Viet clenched his fists, his eyes red, angrily saying, "Such a king, is he worthy of my loyalty? Such a court, is it worthy of everyone spending the night to guard and protect?" Tu Viet, I patted his hand hard, forcing him to calm down. Looking straight into his eyes, I said, "Have you forgotten? On the way to Jizhou, you said that you wanted to become a monk for the homeless people. Become an official to bring peace to the world. You can definitely do it. Don't let hatred disturb your mind." Tai Bin, Tu Viet mumbled. I looked at him and slowly said, "Tu Viet, I have never told you about my background because I found it unnecessary. I was born into a peasant family in the middle of the continent, right during 3 years of continuous drought. The king was greedy and increased taxes. The people were so miserable that they had to exchange their children for food." I recalled the vague memories, unconsciously clenching my fingers. I had an older brother and a younger sister. Although my family was poor, my parents treated me very well. I rubbed my face and continued speaking. There was a drought for 3 years. Not a single grain of rice was harvested, people were starving. At night, the neighbors were so hungry that they discussed with my parents to exchange their children for food. I was the one who was taken away. Tu Viet looked at me, his eyes filled with pity. At that time I was only 5 years old, killed someone and escaped. On the way I met my master. She saw that I had good character, so she accepted me as her disciple and taught me swordsmanship. After I finished telling the story, I sighed softly and said to Tu Viet, "Like me being a swordsman, I can save a few people, a few families. Like you, a mandarin can save a district, a city, even a state. Tu Viet, don't give up your great wisdom. Become a good mandarin. Leave a good name for the world." Okay, after a long while, Tu Viet spoke. After a while, he looked at me and asked, "I heard your master say, are you going?" Facing his gaze, I was speechless, I could only nod. Tu Viet sighed and asked me again, "I heard Lam Tindi say that you used to like me. When was that?" I rubbed my hands and slowly said, "The first year in the Xiao family, you often took me out to play. One night we went out to eat wontons, and it started raining on the road. An old lady selling wontons slipped and fell into the mud. You drove her to the clinic, and I pushed the wonton cart behind. On the way that day I didn't know why, but I just felt like I liked you. But not long after, when I heard you said you had a fiancé in the capital, I immediately extinguished that feeling." "So soon?" Tu Viet raised his head, closed his eyes and said, "At that time, I was just a spoiled young master who didn't understand the world. I envied my brother for having a wife like you, talented and free. Because I wanted to sing more, I kept mentioning Lam Tindi. A few days later my health had improved, and my master told me to leave with her. She wanted to take me to Shaolin to use the method of cultivating qi and nourishing the meridians to avoid leaving behind any residual eggs, so the sooner I left, the better." Before leaving, Tu Viet, Tu Du and I sat drinking wine in the yard. No one said anything, only Mr. Trang kept us company by the empty bottle of wine. Below Mr. Trang, the master had led the horse out the door. "Take care of your health," I put down my wine cup, carry my knife and luggage and hug both of them in turn. "This time we part, the world is long, it will be difficult to meet again." As I leave I hear Tu Viet scream, "Nguyen Tu Dao, remember to come back to the capital to visit me." I did not dare to turn back, afraid to see his red eyes. Riding a horse under the moonlight, my master and I rushed away. "Xiao Yu once asked me, why didn't you wait until morning to leave, it would be more leisurely?" I said, "People in the Zhang Ho have never been happy with their timing." Xiao Yu replied, "Okay, I hope that you, Zhang Ho guest Yuan Xiaodao, when I hear your name again you will be a famous swordsman in the world." I said, "When my name is famous, I hope you will be an official praised by the world. Here, let's part. The mountains and rivers are high and the roads are long. The court is stormy and unpredictable. Tu Viet and I, each of us go our separate ways. The first time I met Nguyen Tu Dao I was 54 years old. At that time, I was just a spoiled brat who didn't understand the world. Captured by bandits as a hostage, I sat in the hall with the bandits, and all the people in the Zhongho tried to avoid trouble. No one dared to interfere. At that time I thought my life was about to end. Then Nguyen Tu Dao appeared. She was in a bare room wearing an old worn green shirt with a knife on her back. As soon as I entered the door I recognized her. She was my brother Nguyen Tu Dao's fiancée. I never expected we would meet under such circumstances. On her waist was a jade pendant, a legacy passed down from the Xiao family to their eldest daughter-in-law. I knew about her existence since I was young. Big Brother often received strange toys, messy letters, and even funny drawings from her. CA really will marry a woman from the Zhongho. I once looked at the picture you sent and asked. But Nguyen Tu Dao is not bad looking, her eyes are sparkling. It's just a pity that she is a person from the Zhongho with no literary talent. The elder brother smiled, looked at the red string tied around his wrist, and replied, "You are still young, you don't understand. Having a straightforward and open-minded wife like Nguyen Tu Dao is a blessing." At that time I did not believe my brother's words, feeling that he had exaggerated. Who would have thought that I would actually meet her? That night, she sneaked into the room where I was imprisoned, intending to save me. Nguyen Tu Dao was a veteran in the martial arts world, and should not have failed. But bringing me along brought trouble. Even though she had killed the 2 mountain carvers who had captured me, unfortunately they were still poisonous. She had no choice but to return with me to destroy the enemy. On the way back, she was tormented by the cold poison many times but still tried to endure it. That night, we stopped at an abandoned temple. She piled coals from the fire onto the ground, wrapped herself in a blanket and slept. Tu Viet held his sword and kept watch at night. She threw the heavy sword to me and continued sleeping. At that time, my brother, a refined person, how could he have a fiancée sleeping on the cold ground like that? Yuan Xiaodao brought me back to the palace, but because of the cold poison, she had to stay behind to recuperate. After bathing and changing into new clothes, she wore a light blue floral dress. Her hair was tied in a flowing cloud bun, and she had jade earrings in her ears. Standing under the sunlight, she comfortably shot pebbles at the wooden pillars in front of the yard, creating splatters. Looking back, her graceful figure made me blush. At that time I was already engaged to Lam Tin Di. In the capital, when talking to Lam Tin Di, we always kept our distance and she never met me alone. Nguyen Tu Dao was completely different. If I made her unhappy, she would kick me away. If she was happy, she would sit on the roof and throw pebbles at me, making the whole yard wet. At night, we would climb over the wall to go out and play. She really liked to drink at the Qinglu. My father found out about this and he took me in and scolded me. "You brat, Yuan Xiaodao will be your sister-in-law. Yet you take her out to cause trouble all day long. Wait until your brother comes back and see if he breaks your legs." I didn't consider her as my sister-in-law. At that time I didn't understand why I felt uncomfortable. After that, I always mentioned my fiancé in the capital in front of Nguyen Tu Dao. Hearing that, she just glanced at me, then lowered her head and dug away. Only later did I know that she had some feelings for me at that time. But we met too late. She is my brother's fiancé, and I have been engaged for a long time. One night an accident happened and Nguyen Tu Dao took me to Kai Chao. It was also on that journey that I understood what it meant to live a life of a vagabond. Eating simple food and wearing plain clothes, sleeping under the stars at night, you are covered in dust. When you meet a crazy person, you can still use a knife to solve it. On the road, I witnessed her being strong, understanding of life, and sometimes very gentle. I saw a completely different Yuan Xiaodao. Later, when she left, I understood that she would not return. From then on, she continued her journey in the martial arts world, while I stepped onto the stormy path of the main afternoon. We could only look up at the moon, each in our own direction. When I was 10 years old, I learned that my father had arranged a marriage for me. At that time, I was already somewhat of a genius. My aunt was the current imperial concubine, Xiao Ra was the richest man in Jiangnan, and I was Xiao Ra's eldest son. With such a status, my father married me to a woman from the Zhongho. When this news reached my aunt, she immediately wrote a letter home and scolded my father severely. I didn't pay much attention to it. After all, the other party was only 5 years old. Who knew what the future would bring? My father thought that I was too cold and was afraid that I would become indifferent to the knife in the future, so every few months he would send me a letter. The first time I saw the original painting of the knife, I was almost frightened by the beautiful strokes. My father angrily wrote a letter, telling Master Hongxiu to spend some money to hire a good painter to repaint it. After that, the paintings that were sent had a little bit of a shape. The eyes of the little knife were very beautiful, bright and lively, making people unable to forget after just one look. Half a year passed and many paintings were drawn, along with a few of the little knife's small toys, and her image gradually became vivid in my mind. Looking at the small box filled with those things, my hand touched the red string on my wrist. I finally confirmed that I was truly filled with curiosity about this fiancé. I had actually met Xiao Dao twice. It was just that both times were very brief, without the opportunity to have a proper conversation. Tu Viet often mentioned the 2 times I met Tu Dao, listening to it until my hands wanted to close up. I could hear the laughter in his story, but I didn't want to deny or explain. One time was when Tu Dao was 13 years old. I was passing through a place with a few friends, and encountered bandits blocking the way to rob us. Xiao Dao rode past, drew her sword and killed 30 bandits. Her swordsmanship was sharp, her attack and defense were flexible, her movements were lightning fast, making people admire her. At that time I only needed to glance and recognized her. I was stunned for a long time. Master Hongxiu once wrote a letter saying that Xiao Dao's saber technique had already achieved some success, but one had to see it with one's own eyes to understand the meaning of those words. The cold light of the saber and the shadow of the saber were the realm of a true Jianghu traveler. Xiao Dao chopped off the bandit leader's head, put it in his pocket, and intended to bring it to the sect to claim his reward. She pulled her horse closer to me, a little embarrassed, and asked, "Young master, can I have a bag of water?" I handed her the water, but as someone who was naturally talkative, I couldn't open my mouth to speak at that moment. Xiao Dao didn't give me a chance, took the water, thanked me, and left. Afterwards, I regretted it for a long time. Why didn't I tell her that time? If I could meet her again, I would definitely tell her. "Miss Nguyen, hello, I am a constable from Jiangnan, and I am also the person you have an engagement with." I thought to myself, if Xiao Dao met me and saw this weak scholarly appearance, would she regret it? The second time was at the Baihe River. Zhoutan Xiao Dao was competing with someone else. She accidentally got on the boat, standing on the riverbank shouting loudly, get on the boat quickly." I saw Xiao Dao rushing towards me from afar. She jumped up and kicked the water, creating white foam, then firmly landed on the bow of the boat. Her face showed a hint of fatigue. She hugged her sword and slept right on the bow of the boat. I sat down beside her, quietly watching her. She grew up to be very beautiful, just like a young woman. The Jianghu road was not easy to walk. Her clothes were simple and clean but faded. With a swish, the small knife in her hand was drawn from its sheath. She closed her eyes, her voice rising in a cold tone. "Look twice more and I will gouge out your eyes." I dare not look anymore, obediently turning my eyes away. Looking at the beauties of Jianghu is something that makes life more difficult. That's why the little knife had an aura about it. It was clear that both times we met, I didn't feel any sense of familiarity with it. When the boat docked, the little knife had already left. I let out a soft sigh. The 2 times we met, she didn't even bother to look at me. I began to wonder if my face was completely unattractive. But when I returned to the capital, half of the young ladies in the capital came out just to look at me. I felt that maybe my face wasn't that bad. When Xiao Yu heard about the time I met Xiao Dao again, he immediately asked me, "KK, why didn't you directly reveal your identity to her?" Of course, I didn't tell Xiao Yu that I didn't dare to say anything. Who would have thought that someone like Xiao Yu, who was once famous throughout the capital, would be afraid of being judged by his fiancée? What he feared, he met exactly. Xiao Dao coincidentally saved Xiao Yu, then came to stay at the Xiao family. Father wrote a letter saying that Xiao Dao wanted to marry him to death. I was far from the capital, and I read the letter all night without being able to sleep. The next day, Sui Song asked Xiao Jia, "Aren't you planning to return soon? Why don't you leave? What are you going back for? Are you going to let someone marry you to death?" So I didn't return. The strangest thing was that Xiao Yu kept sending letters, but never mentioned anything about Xiao Dao. I gradually realized something. A passionate young man like Xiao Yu must have had some strange thoughts about Xiao Dao. It's strange, Xiao Viet and I have completely opposite personalities, but we always like the same things. Now, even our eyes for choosing people are the same. It's just that Xiao Viet, if you can give in, then I will give in. But people, it is impossible. No one expected that by the time I met Xiao Dao again, the Xiao family would have met with a disaster of extermination. The emperor, in order to use the Xiao family as a pawn to deal with the queen and the Sun family, pushed our entire family into Chet. The aunt was in extreme pain and was imprisoned in the cold palace. As for me, I had to enter the Eastern Palace to act as an advisor to the Crown Prince, lowering myself to reduce his suspicions. I intentionally angered Princess Vin Bin. Only then will the Crown Prince put aside his suspicions and trust me. While I was secretly plotting in the capital, Chu Viet and Chu Dao lived in Bien Chao. Many nights I lay naked and thought, if Chu Dao really liked Chu Viet, I would take the initiative to break off the engagement and fulfill her wish. But when I met Chu Dao again in the capital, I realized that I could not let her go. At Tan Lao, even though others stared at me, I did not care, because Vin Bin's tricks were too familiar to me. But that day when I was locked in the same room with Chu Dao, the two of us lying next to each other, I immediately recognized that she was Nguyen Chu Dao. She seemed to have taken off her disguise and asked me if I recognized her. Of course I didn't. How could I admit it? The medicine in my body was boiling, almost exploding at that moment. Xiao Dao really didn't expect to see her in this situation. Over the years, no matter how much Vin Bin insulted me, I never wavered. But this one time I was afraid. I was afraid that Chu Dao would look down on me. In the end, I did not do anything to harm her. She only blushed and did not push me away. The teeth marks on her neck were my warning to Chu Viet. From Chu Dao's eyes, I could see that she was a little curious about me. Because of that little curiosity, I let it take root in her heart, slowly blooming into a flower. Therefore, I intentionally angered Vin Bin, and while Chu Viet was taking the exam, I brought Chu Dao to my estate. Looking at her worry when she saw me injured, her eyes filled with pain and panic, I just wanted to protect her forever. Chu Dao was not good at hiding her emotions, her eyes could not lie. When our eyes met, she intentionally turned away. Her hands were red and sore. Before, I was not an interesting person, nor did I like to socialize with girls. My father was often worried, saying that Xiao Dao had been around the world, had a big voice, and I had such a slow personality, how could I please her? But now that I was with Xiao Dao, I suddenly knew how to tell a few jokes to amuse her without anyone teaching me, and even played Go with her. When I was drawing, she leaned over to look, so I taught her how to draw a few small animals in a simple way. She learned very quickly, happily cheering, but then shyly said, "I've been laughed at, I rarely concentrate